Listen, I get to talk to Josh Feldman today about his documentary Animal, going for an all carnivore diet. When I first saw the press release and I just saw the title, I was like, oh, here we go. This is going to be some vegan propaganda documentary. And it turns out I was severely wrong. So I am thrilled for you. I will give you a quick background note on myself. During COVID, I had lost 98 pounds because I went on a ketogenic diet, and they said, "Hey, fatty, if you get this, you're going to die." Lost 98 pounds. I gained back 40 only because once I got COVID, I couldn't taste everything I tasted was either extremely salty, extremely bitter, or extremely sweet, nothing other than that. And so when I regained my taste, I went wild and ate everything that was in sight because I could actually taste again. But this actually really does work. And it's interesting to see why it's been demonized for so long.
Certainly has. RC, first of all, thank you very much for having me. And your story's, incredible. And just the sheer number, the volume of stories like yours that we have encountered in the making of this film has just been absolutely incredible, man. Honestly.
Well, let's
Um,
get that 40 off again before we get too excited for me.
there we go. Sure, you'll get it off in no time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand that uh, animal we've made animal in such a way that people can really hopefully access the information immediately. So, we've got some groundbreaking science obviously in the film, but the way that I've tried to kind of package it and get this across to people, I think will really help people to understand what the carnivore diet does for you, you know? So, yeah.
I do need to ask this. So I'm a child of the 80s, born in the late 70s, grew up in the 80s, came of age in the 90s. Um, Growing up, we had the food pyramid, and we knew grains and rice and breads and everything was the foundational of the pyramid, and essentially meats was the tiny aspect on the top. And we've seen the rise of obesity because of all of this. Yet, and then also growing up, one week eggs were bad for you because it's going to destroy your cholesterol. Next week, eggs were fine. Now milk is bad for you. Luckily, I'm lactose intolerant, so it doesn't matter for me in that regard. But, 2 weeks later, milk was fine. And then I come to see how, in COVID, oh, we don't have enough factory workers for the meat plant, so we just killed all the cows. So essentially, eggs became bad because we didn't have enough eggs. So that was the narrative. Milk became bad because we didn't have enough cows to milk. So that's why milk was demonized. It seems like that's really the trend, and it had nothing to do with the eggs or the dairy being the problem.
No, it certainly isn't. I'm so glad that you raised that question. So what we do in Animal is we kind of really understand how the food pyramid was created. What were the agendas involved in the construction of the food pyramid as we know it in the Western world? And we kind of break that apart. The understanding of who were the scientists of the time that put it together. So the understanding of Ansel Keys and the American Heart Association, Procter and Gamble, and how all of this, all of these factors combined with what is I think heavily misunderstood or just simply not really known is the influence of the Seventh Day Adventist Church going right back to the kind of middle of the 19th century. Their influence on American politics, their influence on the food that we consumed, starting off in America, and then which kind of as the international Western diet started to spread around the world. The understanding of Kellogg's. Where did Kellogg's come from? How did it come about? Why do we think that eating cornflakes is the best possible thing for us to do in the morning? Why? You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
all of these things we completely break them apart in Animal. And I think that one of the really, really important things to understand as well, RC, is that um, the kind of core nature of the film is bringing human beings, bringing us all back to a place of understanding that we know what's good in our body if we took the time to listen to our body, right?
Right.
We are so bombarded with the marketing that is coming at us all the time. We are society has evolved in such a way that we go to our doctor and we simply accept what our doctor says, right? Because of the element of trust. Doctor is there to fix you, right? But where and when did we stop asking about the actual effects of this particular pill that's I'm putting in my body,
Mhm.
and stop just accepting it because that's what's given?
Right. It reminds, so I have a master's degree in theology and studying church history, even during the time of the church fathers in the fourth century, you know, where St. John Chrysostom through a synod was pushed out of the church, and the faithful who, studied and believed what they did brought him back in saying, no, the authority is wrong. And so even in church history, we saw how you stood up to authority when authority abused its power. When did we all of a sudden submit to authority, especially in the West, and especially being Americans, since our entire existence had been anti authority, especially when it came to the British and a tea tax? Is this like a remnant of the Enlightenment? Well, they have this title, so I have to listen to them, and we've thrown out common sense altogether?
Exactly, man. Exactly. We can explore this for I can talk to you for hours about this. Unfortunately, in the context of this space of a documentary, we've only got 90 minutes.
Right.
And I've broken the film down into seven key chapters, which was very difficult. There are so many areas that I wanted to explore, obviously. But to your point, I think if we look at the Industrial Revolution, and again going back to the influence of the Seventh Day Adventist Church. So I'm talking specifically now, uh, from a point of when this became mainstream in our society effectively. When did the domino effect really begin? We can talk about the advent of agriculture as we know it. Okay, the development of grains. We can go down that rabbit hole as well, which, trust me, I have done in the research and the
And you
construct
do
that
in the documentary.
we certainly do. So for people to really understand how we've kind of come to this point now, we've tackled it from the mid 19th century, because that is where the real domino effect on our society, and our dietary habits began. So yeah, looking forward to getting everybody's feedback. Bring it on.
So, Josh, I do want to ask, how did you open your eyes to this topic? Did you have an obesity issue? Did you have inflammation? Like I had severe inflammation of the joints, and then when I switched it up for that time being during the pandemic, my joints hadn't felt as good, even before when I had blown out my knee in competition. So now to sit there and go, hey, I feel a lot better joint wise, inflammation wise. Like, was that something that you had tested? Was it Atkins that led you to this? Like, what was your introduction, and then what was your personal aha moment in switching things up?
Oh man, such a great question. Thank you for asking that, RC. So this journey actually began with our executive producer, Vinny Lingham. Vinny, his wife, his family had suffered from many conditions over the years and had tried various diets, and nothing was really having much of a change on them. So when I say conditions, predominantly pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, which was prevalent in Vinny's family. Not to mention gut issues. So it reached a point where I think it was 2023, where Vinny had experimented himself with the carnivore diet and saw him and his wife, and found absolutely a profound difference in their lives. Okay. Vinny and I had, just so you understand the origins of the film, Vinny and I had worked together in 2016, 2023, when, interestingly, um, I actually lost my brother. So my brother passed on 2023, and the beginning of that journey for him was in the late 60s. So this moves into a big pharma angle, which is very much part of my agenda, something that's very close to my heart. In the late 60s, my mom in the UK had taken a pill called Primados. And Primados was renowned for resulting in severe birth defects in many children in the UK, throughout Europe, and other parts of the world. And so my brother was born with a curvature of the spine, which manifested during puberty, tremendously during puberty. So he had learning difficulties. The major physical difficulty, there are a few others, but the major one was curvature of the spine, which then ultimately affected his thyroid and affected multiple other organ systems. And so very long story short, and a life of dealing with all kinds of difficulties. Um, he got to a point where he was 53 and he just had enough. He'd had enough of living like this. And so when he passed on in 2023, me as a filmmaker, I had made close to 200 documentaries in the entertainment space and had created shows like Survivor. I'd worked on Survivor as a director and producer in South Africa, directed Shark Tank, as I mentioned, The Voice, and big format game shows, worked for MTV Base for a while. And I wanted to shift my attention towards making material that elevated humanity in some way, either elevated humanity in some way or contributed towards healing in some way. And so Vinny had been, he'd been speaking to me for a while about, doing something together here in the States. And it reached a nexus point where he explained to me, as I mentioned, the profound effects the carnivore diet had had for him and his family. And so I said, cool, this is very interesting. Let me do some research. I went full carnivore at that point for 4 months. And in myself, even though I have no major chronic conditions that I'm aware of, I had a basic condition of eczema. So eczema on the back of my arms and under my chin, which I thought was just a shaving rash, which it wasn't. Turned out eczema under the throat, right, and back of the arms. So I went full carnivore for 4 months, and eczema gone within 2 weeks.
Wow.
2 weeks, the eczema absolutely gone. And then I want to say from an overall general health perspective, the first effect that I noticed was this absolute kind of release of pressure in my head. So, we go about life and we kind of wake up in the morning and we have 2 cups of coffee and we kind of get on with it, right? And you don't really think about, really, because our lives are so busy, we really don't think about, are we really operating optimally? Are we functioning optimally? Okay, yeah, we may take a couple of supplements here and there, and we've got to take my omegas and extra B12 supplement or whatever it may be. But truly, what does it feel to be absolutely healthy? Okay, and I think most people just immediately concentrate on heart health, right? How your body's feeling when you're walking, how your muscles are feeling, how your what's happening in your gut. But how often do you actually think about the optimal operation of your brain function? And so one of the first things, and I've come across this now, having made the film, I've come across this so many times, is so many people say that the first thing they feel is this incredible space around their brain. So their brain functions optimally, like a racing car, like an F1 racing car. And also there's space that is apparent in the chest. You feel this tremendous release of space. And then everything else starts to kick in as well. So like I say, with the eczema for me, it was about 2 weeks and was
Wow.
gone. Gone.
I'm thrilled for you with that. Unfortunately, Josh Feldman, we have run out of time. I could talk to you about this for hours on end. Animal has a limited release in theaters and is now available on digital. Where can we find you on social media to keep the conversation going? And I would love to talk to you more about this in private, so just we can have, even more in-depth ideas and exchanges.
That'd be amazing, Nida. Thank you very much. Sorry, RC. Thank you very much, RC. You can find Animal Doc Film on Instagram. We're on YouTube as well. You can find me at Joshua One Sun. And so all of the updates on translations into different languages that's coming out of that channel. I'll obviously keep sharing everything. So hope to see you guys there.
Absolutely. And last thing, SUN or SON?
SAN, Joshua One
SA.
Sun, as in the Japanese sun.
Perfect. So we got it
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much, Josh Feldman. I really appreciate your time today. Animal, again, limited release in theaters and on digital currently. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you very much, RC.